Welcome back to a special edition of Between the Studs. This is our 5th episode as we're following the progress of the Monaco, the $3 million home that we are building, and we're still working through the framing stage. So today we're going to talk about framing and literally what's between the studs, or in this case, between the studs. Get it?
Yeah, Tony, you totally missed the Between the Studs memo.
Did I?
Yeah.
Did I really miss it? Or
Ooh.
That's right. I'm a little fancier. We are in the world famous Granite Ridge Builders cutaway home. This is where we can show you what's on the back side of the drywall without having to go to 4 to 5 to 6 different houses to see it all. However, once you come in and see this, you're gonna wanna go out and take a look at some of these homes and framings so you can see how this is expanded into your custom home.
Yeah, we really tried to make this place a one-stop shop, so that way you can come in here and you can see basically from floor up what we do. So you can see the floor sheeting, how we frame in windows, how we run beams across the ceilings. You know, we're really trying to educate people on what's going on in their home.
It's really fascinating to all of us, and if you would want to go out there and take a tour of the Monaco as we're constructing it, give us a call, let us know. Also, come out here to our 15,000 square foot showroom and let us show you what truly is between the studs, what's on the other side of the drywall, and also with our new revamped showroom, we have all of the other things to show you as well.
Yeah, and Mike, you mentioned it. Framing is extremely crucial because if we don't frame the stairs right, when they go to finish stairs, it's not going to look right. If we don't frame the kitchen right, all of these visions that the decorators, all those vision boards, we've got to figure out how to frame it properly to make sure it has that end look. And there's been a ton of conversation with a lot of different people, a lot of very intelligent people. We've had architects. We've had our drafts team here working through it day after day, trying to make sure we don't overlook any of those details. Again, the designers play their parts. We have engineers. We have our framing company as well as our framing craftsmen out there. And really the craftsmen are the ones that make it work at the end of the day. Everybody puts everything on paper. They come in and they make everything exactly how it needs to be. But then we come in too and we go through with tape measures, levels, and we ensure everything is perfect, because without that, we're going to be fighting it all the way through the rest of the process.
You know, Luke, once you get done with the planning process, you really have to have quality materials to go into your home, otherwise it's a waste. So we really are going to dive in this episode and talk about what sort of studs we're using in the house. You know, 2x4, 2x6, finger jointed studs.
And Mike, going right along with that, most people think, man, the way we frame houses hasn't changed in forever. But that's simply not true. In the 20 years that I've been doing it, things have changed definitely, and then 50, 100 years, you look at that. Let's go back 100 years. You look at this picture right here, a 2x4. Most people say that term, they just think, oh, 2 inches by 4 inches. Not the case anymore. They actually say it's nominal 2x4, which what you're holding there would only measure 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. If you look back in 1920, that was a true 2x4. And we do some remodeling here and there, and I love when we open up a wall and we can see a true 2x4. There's a big difference. Now, your house is still very strong, still structurally sound with what we've got today, and that goes with any 2x6, 2x8. All of those are nominal. So if you measure them, they're not going to measure to the true 2x8 distance. So there's just some examples, but I could go on and on about another big one, balloon framing versus platform framing. Great Chicago fire, all those were balloon framed, all those houses burnt very quickly today, and you can see it out at our Monaco framing, the way we do our platform framing.
You know, we keep talking about this. Let's get to it. Let's start on episode number 5 of the Monaco, talking all about framing and the entire process of this. Come on, join us.
Hey, prove that you can use a tape measure.
Welcome to Between the Studs. We are Granite Ridge Builders, custom builders serving northern Indiana, northwest Ohio, and also parts of southern Michigan. We have been building custom homes for almost 2 decades, and we're really passionate about what we do. So join us today as we explore the processes, the trends, and also tips that characterize today's new home. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back. And as you can see from the beginning of the pre-show, we're going to be talking a lot about the framing process. And as you can see here, we have a lot of studs right here that we're going to be talking about all day. Well, and some framing part too.
Well, besides that, we are excited to continue to bring to you our $3 million model called the Monaco and the process it takes to build this magnificent home.
And this is our 5th show on this incredible model, and it is talking about the stage that we're currently in, which is framing. And framing is the favorite of a lot of our phases because a lot of us love the smell of fresh cut lumber in the morning. It's just so wonderful.
It is
and it's
better
a great
than your
phase.
car.
And framing is arguably the most important phase of construction. You have to have good bones, and everything builds off of the framing here.
It is important, Mike. Think of what it affects. Your stairs, your ceiling, your windows, your doors. It all has to be right. And you can tell a big difference when it's a custom quality built home.
And the framing stage is also one of the most costliest stages of this whole process. So it says about it says about 15% of the overall cost is going to be in that framing stage. And so for an average house, $300,000 is going to cost you about $45,000. So let's do some simple math here. $3 million, you're at $450,000 wrapped up in this stage.
And if you saw some of our first shows, we were talking about concrete in that stage, and that is about the same. In a basement, it's about 20% of the concrete stage. So add the two together, we're already approaching $1 million.
$1 million.
Yeah. And it's estimated in this $3 million house. At one time it was two. It's
Change orders.
yes. Over 2,000 wall studs, almost 1,000 sheets of OSB, and over 110 squares of shingles on the roof. And if you took those shingles and you lined them up one after one, they would stretch out over 4 miles. That's back to the grocery store and back.
And Lonnie, also, that's 1.4 million nails.
Oh, I got 2 of them in my tires.
Well, to have a successful framing phase, you got to make some really important decisions in the background. You also have to make sure you document everything that's happening for everybody involved. That's where that software that we use, Builder Trend, really comes in handy.
And one of the biggest things with that is figuring out the architectural style of what we're going to be doing. And with this model, the Monaco, it is modern European chateau style.
So it starts with the floor plan, or as we call it in the industry, the blueprint, right? And there's a lot of details that go into this. We have 4 architectural drafts people, these amazing designers here. They've put tons and tons of planning and hours into this house, and details are the most important thing here. And we've really planned it out all the way through. This is a process we've been working on for what, 2-3 years before we even broke ground?
Yeah.
Well, one of the biggest comments we've been getting when building this is your vision board, girls. Everybody wants a vision board because it is so hard to imagine, so you've done a great job with that.
We're collaborating with Home Lumber for our framing design engineers to make sure that everything is structurally okay, that all the load calculations are taken care of, so that when you walk through this, it's going to feel like a Granite Ridge home.
We're also going to have a lot of discussions with the mechanical people. That's the plumbers. That's the HVAC, the heating, venting, and air conditioning people. And then also the electricians, where the panels are going to go. There's a couple panels in this house and a sub panel. A lot of things to think about. We just don't just lay out a house plan and say, let's build it. We got to get their input first in order to build something that makes sense.
And the collaboration with all of those electrical partners for the locations and the different framing members that it's going to involve.
Let's not forget about exterior windows, doors, everything that's going to affect plumbing and heating for framing.
Last but not least, every single design selection is affected by framing. I mean, not to mention, say, adding a sauna in the basement, changing some rooms around down there, making the wine area a little bit different. That, you know, hypothetically, that all is affected.
Did we know about those?
Yeah, no. And Luke, I think you can tell the audience, how much time has it taken with HVAC, things like that, every time we move a wall, what do they have to do?
Yeah, there's always a domino effect. They come to us, we want to move a door, we want to move a wall, and we need to go back to all of those previous trade partners that was just said and say, how does this affect you? How does this affect your layout? And we need to make sure we don't leave any detail unturned.
Okay guys, before we get out to the job site, why don't we give our audience some components and nomenclature, names of things that they might want to identify when they're out looking at this framing process.
Well, let's start with our basic wall structure, our wall framing, if you will. And let's start from the bottom and kind of work our way towards the ceiling. So the very first portion that we need is called our sill plate. And if it's on concrete, we're going to make sure that that sill plate is treated to make sure that it can handle any moisture that's wicking up from that concrete. We also triple seal it from air infiltration. So we use a bead of caulk, then we use this foam, it's a blue foam called seal sealer, and then we do another piece of caulk on top of that. So we really make sure that no bugs or air can infiltrate that bottom sill. Now as we're working our way up, then you're going to get into your standard studs. Then those can either be solid studs or they could be finger jointed studs, and we use both on our construction depending on different areas. Finger jointed are going to typically run a little truer, a little straighter, so we make sure we use those in kitchens, bathrooms, area where we're butting cabinets up to it. Then, as we keep working our way up the stud, you're going to run into a top plate. And then on top of that, we have a double top plate. So we actually have 2 top plates.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Now, when Lonnie and I were building, we only did the top plate. We never had the double top plate, so that's why many houses built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s were only about 7 foot 8 inches tall, not
Right.
8 foot.
So that double top plate serves two purposes. One, it gives us a closer measurement to a true 8 foot, 9 foot, or 10 foot, depending on what you're looking for. And on this Monaco, we have every one of those ceiling heights, by the way. And we even have 11 out in the garage. But the double top plate also allows us to overlap some of those framing members, so tying those conjoining wall frames together. So it gives us a lot more structural integrity. Now, backing up a little bit, whenever we put a hole in that wall assembly, so a door, a window, we call them portals. So we got this behind Lonnie here. This window, we had to do some extra framing in order to solidify that wall to be able to support having that giant hole in it. So as you see here, we've got a couple extra pieces of stud. This farthest outside one's going to be your king stud. And that's what's going to run on the outside of the header. And the header serves an important part because that's going to bring all the weight that's coming down on that window, which can't support any weight other than its own weight, and it's going to spread that weight on the outside of the window back to these studs. Then we have a trimmer or jack stud, and we always call it trimmer stud because it's easy to remember. It's when we install the casing on this window, when we put a nail through that casing, it's going to go into the trimmer stud. So our trimmer is putting a nail into the trimmer stud.
And I also noticed, Luke, that out at the Monaco that we did a lot of 2x6 walls. So around windows, for example, what's the difference? What's the pros and cons of a 2x6 versus a 2x4 wall?
Yeah, so whenever we do a 2x4 versus 2x6, we obviously have some extra depth in that wall assembly, which does allow us to do a little bit of extra insulation. So you're going to have R19 in those walls. But that's behind the walls. You can't see that. Visibly, what you can see whenever you switch to those is your window jambs or it can be door jambs. Either one are going to be a little bit extra width. So you're going to have about an extra 1.5 inches of width in there. So cats love it.
Cats can sit on that sill, can't they? Yeah.
Yep.
And I know the decorators, because of the style with the chateau European style, you guys said that 2x6 walls were better.
Yes, absolutely.
So as I finish this out, as we're working our way down the window has to sit on something. We call that a sill for the window. And then below that, we pick up studs again. Those are called cripple studs. They're usually just a fraction of the height that a normal stud would be.
You're pretty good at this.
Done it a time or two.
Now there's so many different ceiling designs out there, and we can come up with some really creative ones, but they really do need to be structurally sound, which is first and foremost the important thing when it comes to ceiling design.
And again, that terminology, when we're talking about doing something that's different than just a typical ceiling, we're going to call it ceiling-scaping.
We're going to see many of these different ceiling features in the Monaco. We have cathedral ceilings, vaulted ceilings, box ceilings, tray ceilings, copper ceilings.
All the ceilings.
I feel like Forrest Gump right now. Bubba Gump shrimp, we got
Shrimp and potatoes.
And when we talk about all these ceiling styles, they look so great when they're completed. But I gotta tell you, looking at it when it's framed up, you can really understand the craftsmanship that goes into this underappreciated style that these framers do.
And when it comes to framing, your nails and staples are very important, and there's hundreds of types of nails and staples that go into a great framing job.
So we've been talking about all these roof styles and framing. I say we get out in the field and go check out what we've got going on at the Monaco.
That's great. You have any shoes on for that?
Well, here we are at the Monaco again, Luke, and this is such an exciting time of the build because foundations are really cool. They're awesome. They're a beautiful sight, but there's nothing like seeing the framework go up on a house. And again, for us, a typical house might take maybe a week to do the framing part of this, but how long is this one going to take?
Right, so this one's probably going to take closer to 5 weeks. They've been working on it for about a week and a half. You know, Tony Depker and I were here a little week and a half ago, and it was raining. We had our umbrellas, and now you got the short straw. It's cold, there's snow on the ground. It's supposed to get even colder, but as we said before, we work in all conditions. We keep the job site moving forward. So they've got about 3 more weeks on this house.
And there's so many different materials that are going to be used on here too that the scale of this project can be seen in just something like OSB sheets. So a typical size home that we might build, you might find 175 to 200 sheets of OSB. With this home, how many are we looking at?
Yeah, we'll probably be close to 1,000 sheets of OSB, which is just mind-boggling. Now, another thing that we measure is board foot. So a board foot, just to remind you guys, is 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 inch. And this one, again, you're probably looking at 75,000 to 100,000 board foot, where a typical house, you might be closer to that 20,000 range.
So the dynamics and the scale of this house are just really something that you're going to have to come see. Even just driving by it, you can see it right now. Again, just a 3-story home behind us is absolutely gorgeous, and the scale, again, it's just awesome to see.
Yeah, and from the backside with that walkout basement, it's true 4-story home. Soon they're going to be working on those rafters. Once those rafters start going up, you're really going to get to feel how big this house is. All right, Izzy, I don't have the furnace running quite yet, but it is a little warmer inside. At least gets us out of the wind. Let's go check out the inside progress.
Sounds good to me.
All right, Izzy, we're standing in the great room of the Shadow Creek model, and I'm really excited about this because above our heads, just imagine in about 2 weeks, there's going to be these timber trusses that actually carry through here all the way out into the veranda. So as you walk through our front door, your eye's just going to catch that, and it's going to carry it right to these windows and looking at that view of that drop down to the Willow Creek.
It's an absolutely beautiful view, and again, we keep talking about the scale of a project, but that's when you walk up to something and the scale is just so much larger than what you're used to seeing, but it carries out through the home in a beautiful, beautiful way. So behind us, you can see we're going to start to see again these great windows. We're going to see lots and lots of natural light here, and what I notice here too, though, is the way this stuff is framed. When you do such a big wall like this, we actually have to go get permission to do this, right?
Yeah, we hire an engineer and they tell us exactly what we need to do to frame this wall up to make sure that it can handle the wind load, because it's a very tall wall, lots of windows. It's going to be basically a giant sail, so we need to make sure that there's not going to be any movement in that. And you know, there was a lot of detail. There's a lot of windows in this house, so we paid a lot of attention on how do we maximize the view in every one of these rooms. Now, Izzy, we talked about some of the stats in the previous segment, but how many nails do you think were used in this house?
Well, we did a little bit of research, and a typical home that we might build might use somewhere close to 10,000 nails inside just a single ranch home. So what are we looking at with this one?
Yeah, this one we're probably going to be well over 100,000 nails. Now, can you imagine prior to 1980, they didn't have this right here. They didn't have a nail gun.
Yeah.
So imagine doing 100,000 hand-driven nails for a house this size. That's just inconceivable. I think my arm would fall off.
I think your thumb might end up looking like this. Something would happen.
You definitely would hit your thumb a time or two.
And if you recall, we have done a segment all about nails, so let's take a look at that for a second.
In our industry, we hear the term penny nail. Now, I know what a penny is, but how does that relate to a nail?
Yeah, so we actually rate, and you can see these 3 nails here. This is a 4D nail, an 8D nail, and a 6D nail. Do you know what the D stands for?
Now, D must come from the 1400s where their money was a denarius, so D is just a short name for it.
Right, so essentially that would be like a 4-penny nail, or an 8-penny nail, or a 16-penny nail. And the way that it worked is actually a 4D nail, back in the 1400s, is you'd actually have to pay 4 pennies, or 4 denariuses, for 100 of these nails. So the 8 one, you have to pay 8 denarius for 100 of those, and then so on and so forth. So the 16, again, 16 denarius.
So it comes into sizing too, because the bigger the nail, the more you pay, so it was a higher number.
Correct, yep. Now, we obviously, it costs more than a penny to get 100 of these. So now it's all just about the length of it. So a 4D nail is going to be about 1.5 inches long. 8D nail will be 2.5 inches long, and a 16 is about 3.5 inches long. Now, it's a crazy equation of how they actually come with those, but our framers, the guys in the industry, they know if you hear a 16D nail, you know it's a 3.5 inch long nail.
Now, these nails all look different. These are for trimming, is that correct?
Yeah, so these would be just kind of standard nails. That
okay.
Any job you would need a nail for, these are what you typically see. Then over here we got 2 smaller nails, and those are your trim nails. So this is an exterior one, and it's coated for, you know, like your fascia, so that would be a white fascia, and that's not going to rust. Any of these other nails, if you put them on the exterior, would rust, but it's got a very small head, and it's only holding up a very, very lightweight object. And then this would be an interior trim nail. Again, a very small head because you don't want that trim, that nice trim to show, exactly.
And then we move down, we're getting into roofing nails and other nails that go into the home.
Yep, so this first one is actually a drywall nail, and it's got a little bit larger head because it's holding the weight of that drywall up, but then that head is actually kind of concave over. So that way they can get that in there and it gets set and we can do a nice coat of mud over the top. The roofing nail also has a large head, and that is a very lightweight nail. Again, it's not holding a lot of weight, but that width of that head is going to help with the wind load. So if there's any wind that gets under that roof, it's not going to pull that nail out.
Now, what is this nail?
Yeah, this nail is actually a neat one because it's got 2 heads on it. That's actually a concrete form nail. So they actually nail it to the first head where it stops, and then those nails are constantly getting pulled out and then put back in. So that allows them to get that claw right over the top of it and pop it out really easy. There's no chance of them overdriving that nail.
This is a really different nail here.
Yeah, so this one here is a masonry nail. So we can actually use nails to actually go into brick, mortar, concrete, anything of that nature, and that's what a masonry nail was. So it's got a very, very hard casing around it and a very, very sharp point to be able to get into that masonry.
And the last one here?
Last one here has got a cap on that nail, so essentially it's a cap nail. And that is for like our house wrap. You put that cap nail on it, and again, there's not a lot of weight with the house wrap, it's just holding it in place. So that cap essentially keeps that nail from tearing through that product.
These are such an important part of construction. Like we mentioned earlier, a 1,200 square foot house could have 12,000 nails. So very important to know what these are.
Okay, Luke, now I know that I tend to be more on the design side of things and the finishes, but it really is important that design also follows the safety of how we build our homes. And there's been a lot of changes that the construction industry has made over the years to improve the safety of our homes, and so we want to point a few of those out.
Yeah, we are at the framing stage here at the Monaco in Shadow Creek, and this is a perfect example of the way that we frame today. Now, one example I want to show you, you talked about safety, is right behind me there is a 14-foot long 2x6. Now, if we rewind the clock, it's about 150 years ago to 1871, Great Chicago Fire. All of the framing in America prior to then was all done with balloon framing. For what that means is we would run 2x4s or 2x6 all the way from the first floor to the roof edge, which allowed that fire to, once it started in the house, it just went straight to the attic and engulfed the entire house. Now what we do is a platform framing. So platform framing, you can see the example kind of behind us. We frame every level separate from each other, so we work up. And that way we do not have any of those chases that run all the way up to the attic. So once we get to from the first floor to the second floor, it's a solid break. And then if that fire would have to burn through several layers of wood to access that next floor. Right behind me, you see we have a nice tall wall, right?
Yep.
These walls in this great room is going to be what?
17, 20 foot tall, which is going to be gorgeous with some beams and all sorts of cool things.
Yeah, so we have to frame those with one solid piece of lumber, but at every 10-foot increment, we have to put a fire blocking, which means we have to put a solid piece of lumber in between all those stud cavities, again, to block that fire from growing. So 1871 was a pivotal time in America's history, and most people don't realize how it changed how we frame the houses today.
Okay, that's all still great, but I really want to talk about the fireplace. We have that framing going on. We have the beams. I mean, there's way more important to me right now.
Let's walk through that. All right, so as you can hear, we're very busy here at the Monaco. We're at week 4 of the frame stage. Have a couple more weeks to tidy this thing up, but we're standing in front of one of these staircases on this. Now, the staircases are probably one of the most crucial elements to a frame and any home design, and it's also one of the most regulated by code as well.
Absolutely. I find it fascinating that you can be off by even 1/8 of an inch and you will be able to tell by just your normal foot setting on a stair. So it's very important from the framing stage that it's done right, and we have wonderful trade partners and craftsmen that do get it right, which is awesome.
So how many staircases do we have here?
This home has 5 staircases between exterior. We have several levels to this home, so basement, main level, second floor, even a bonus room after that. But then we have another staircase going to the attic in the garage, which is an awesome feature.
So let's talk about different layouts of stairs. So over here to my left, we have one going down to the basement. That's a straight flight stairs, exactly how it sounds. One staircase going straight down. Now we've got something a little different here leading up to the second floor.
Yeah, so this one's a dog leg stair because it's going one direction and then there's a landing and then it goes the other direction.
Yeah, and it has a couple other names too. It could be a half turn, could be a switchback.
Yep.
Now there's a couple other, let's just mention, not on this house, but we've got a radius type stairs. We've got a helical stairs, quarter turn stairs.
Yep. I would be considered doing a radius stair, maybe in the bonus room. We could have a slide even. How cool would that be? That would be super cool.
Right.
Look at that.
As you can see, we're still designing this house as we build it. Kayla, now I think I counted them. We're well over 100 steps in this house, and I know I'm going to be part of the team that's moving all the furniture into this house. Now, these dog leg stairs aren't the best for moving furniture up. I am not looking forward to that day.
It's going to be okay. We have an elevator just for that purpose, so no more breaking backs. We got the elevator, and we made the stairs extra wide, so even the tight furniture, we're fine. It's all good.
Okay, we're back. Now let's talk about what our favorite part of framing out at the Monaco is.
My favorite part is all of the different types of studs we're using in the house. 2x6 on the interior, 2x6 and some 2x4 on the interior of everything. Finger jointed, how they all come together to make a more straighter wall for everything. It's just amazing to see how they incorporate everything all together.
I think my favorite is just the complexity of just all the craftsmanship that's going into some of the ceiling features that we're doing. It's hard to really pick one that I really love exactly, but I think they're all going to be fantastic.
By the way, we chose to stick frame this house. You know, as a custom builder, that's typically how we frame our homes, particularly as it relates to the roof. There's stick framing and there's trusses. But we're blessed in this area to have incredible craftsmen and artisans to do our work, particularly the Amish community. And so we are excited about custom building. We want to custom build a home for you, and we want you to see this incredible Monaco house in the very near future.
I'm really enjoying the 10-foot ceiling throughout the entire first floor. We mentioned earlier that often it used to be under 8 foot tall. Now we are minimally 8 foot tall, often 9 foot tall.
Keep going.
And then again, this 10 foot throughout this entire area has a checklist of things that have to be accounted for. And strangely enough, you might not know it also affects the second floor because of different things like the stairways that go up to the second floor have to be expanded. So it has ripple effect throughout the entire house.
Now, Izzy, we'll get into this later on. Give us a couple months, but what that's going to do is also going to change our door height to make everything proportional on that level. So we'll get to that exciting
Does that
stuff
mean you're
too.
going to an 8 foot?
Maybe, just maybe.
Well, my favorite part about the framing is watching our outdoor living area come to life. So the front porch is a wraparound front porch. It's 8 feet deep. This is 460 square feet. This is larger than the typical 2-car garage, and that's just the front porch. Wow. And then, of course, our rear veranda. This is covered. It's got a cathedral ceiling, and this is 622 square feet. Just off of that is our open deck, which is another 617 square feet. Imagine all this outdoor living.
That's all bigger than my first house.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Elizabeth mentioned a garage. Let's talk about the not average garage that is in this house. 1,745 square feet. We keep arguing over how many car garage that is because seriously, it could be 8 cars. You could actually but framing that size garage is an undertaking. To make that big of an opening, that we have that open framing in there, it's really a feat to make that happen. And then above that, the 405 square foot attic that we have, the framing in there, it has 2 windows up there and 2 dormers. So watching them frame that has just been quite the undertaking.
Well, I know we had fun making this today for you and we enjoyed it, but we do have to close. Kayla, would you close for us?
Thank you all so much for joining us today. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do so well, please pick up the phone and give us a call. Visit our website, or even better yet, come into our front doors. We would love to talk to you about this new model, the Monaco.
So we're doing that. That's actually an 11-foot ceiling.
11-foot ceiling.
Right?
So we want to prevent air infiltration and pet infestation. We don't want your pets coming into the house.
Pets are not allowed in the house.
Small little chihuahuas could, yeah.
Those little ankle biters, come in.
It'll actually ricochet off, and I'm sure we've all been there where it's ricocheted off and it hits you in the knee or the shin.
Yeah, been
Man,
there.
that hurts like an OSB.
OSB. Oh. Hey, thank you, Lou, for helping us on the subject of hammers.
That's the joke.
I think it's funny.
Lonnie's never heard that.
He said OSB. I thought,
Oh, that's awesome. That was so great.